And I think that's where we've missed it. And I had a dream many years ago that totally revolutionized my theology. It totally changed how I think of doing church. I grew up in church, and I grew up in a keep this, keep this, keep this, and this is what you are. I saw the Lord show me this picture of this church filled with drug addicts, with prostitutes, with drug dealers, with gangbangers, with people from all different sorts of crime life. And they were in this church, and they were doing everything wrong. They were having sex in the pews. They were drinking. They were doing drugs in the pews. They were selling drugs to each other. They were doing everything they were doing was wrong. They were fighting. And I was trying to stop all that. And I remember at one point I hollered out and I said, if you're not going to honor God's house and respect his house, then get out. Exactly what probably the majority of pastors or leaders would say. And I remember the Lord speaking back to me so clearly and saying, why would you send away what I've sent in? Why would you send away what you've been asking for? And I said, God, I didn't ask for this. And he said, you asked me for the lost. And he said, now, keep it simple, love them, and let me change them. And that completely revolutionized how I thought of church and how I saw evangelism and everything. And it wasn't about pointing out to people what they were and were not doing, but what Christ was inviting them to. Love me, and I'll change you. Love me, pursue me, and I'll do all the hard stuff. I just want you coming after me.
I started this movie wanting to see if God's love could exist in even the darkest of places. I knew that he loved us, but I was wholly unprepared for the tenacity, the patience, and the sheer power of God's love for all of us, no matter who we are or what we've done. There is a war going on all around us, and it's a fight to the death, but it must be fought and won with the only weapon we have: true, pure, selfless love. Love is not a better program or a slicker presentation, and it doesn't care about talking anybody into anything. It is given freely, and it is only found in the heart of a father who desperately wants to embrace his children. He showed me this unbridled pursuit of his kids when I went to a New Age festival in Mount Shasta, California. I had brought a team with me who simply wanted to pray for people and show them what God's heart looked like. The last time I was in a situation like this, I went looking for a fight. This time, the fight found me. The team began praying for people, and many were getting touched by the Father's love for them. One woman approached Robby for prayer, and shortly after he started, she began to manifest like a snake. Robby commanded it to stop, and he later explained why he does that.
And one of the reasons why is, for me, is I don't like giving a stage for the enemy. And I don't want to give this, and the other thing is that it's an abuse to the person. That type of manifestation is the enemy really trying to abuse the individual. That's my take on it. And when I see those kinds of things happening, it really makes me angry, because I see the manipulation of the individual, the abuse of the individual, and the humiliating them. But also it's Satan trying to demonstrate his power and trying to minister fear to everyone around. And that's the reason why that love is so powerful of a tool against the work of the enemy, because when fear is something that he can control with, the best thing to combat that is love, because immediately that overcomes fear. And the scripture says that God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And I believe that those things, our power comes from the love of Christ. And even Paul makes a statement where he says, the love of Christ compels me to go places I would never normally want to go, and do things I would never naturally want to do. But it's driven and propelled by the love of Christ. I began to just pray, Father, I pray that you would just love her, and just invade her with your love, invade her with your peace, with your joy, and let her know that this is really you, and that this is you inviting her to a relationship. And about that time, this one woman came from across the room and began to speak to her and say, tell them to stop this. Do you need me to help you? Do you need me to help center you?
She began trying to counteract Robby's prayers. Her attempts went nowhere, though, and she finally gave up and left.
And as she began to do this, it was very clear nothing was happening. Nothing was coming back because the presence of God was there, and the presence of God was there because we were there. And we, having Christ in us, the hope of glory, the hope for change, the hope, for her change and her deliverance was present. And so the enemy wanted to be nowhere near that. And so nothing was coming back.